This podcast is a part of the Pulse Podcast Network. If you want to hear things from the NBA, pop culture, and many more, head on over to pulsepodcastnetwork.com or download the Pulse Podcast app.
This is Wrestling Reverb.
Hello everyone and welcome to another edition of Wrestling Reverb. I'm your host Josh as always, and it's now the end of Royal Rumble week. And as you know, I've been having guests in this week to kind of give their thoughts on everything that's been happening leading up to the Rumble. I had Brian on yesterday for the NXT TakeOver show, and today I've got another friend with me. It's kind of tradition around here that I let my guests introduce themselves because I always botch these things. So please introduce yourself, tell us who you are, and go from there.
All right, yeah. I mean, first off, my name is Kevin Carroll. I run the Last Blogger Standing blog, and I'm also a contributor to Diva Dirt and The Chair Shot. So I'm a writer. I'm really excited to be here. I'm trying to branch out in the year 2019 and do some podcasts. So, Josh, I'm incredibly grateful for you having me on. This is so exciting for me. I'm grinning ear to ear. I know you can't see it right now, but I'm smiling like an idiot. And I don't know what else. If there's anything else you'd like to know, feel free to ask. I think that's the gist of it, though. I'm just a kid who likes wrestling, likes writing.
I am the same. I love wrestling, and I think it's weird. I've kind of had a few different people on in the last couple of weeks, just trying to branch out and talk to different people and get different opinions on wrestling. But I've noticed the common theme with pretty much everyone I've talked to is that because the core of it is we love wrestling, we always tend to just naturally have a nice conversation. And, we only talked for maybe 5 or so minutes just before we started recording, but I can already tell that because the core of it is we're bonding over wrestling, I think we'll have a fairly decent chat.
Yeah, I agree, man. I mean, it's something we love. It's so easy to talk about stuff you love. I mean, we're not here talking about algebra because that's a whole different conversation. But we're here talking about wrestling, our love for wrestling. We just had a great show.
Yeah, we
both loved,
really did.
or a show that we both enjoyed. Wrestling is it's just such an easy platform for us to talk about. So yeah, naturally, this conversation is going to go great.
Yeah, and just briefly, give us a little bit of a rundown of your kind of history with wrestling. When did you start watching? What kind of draws you to wrestling?
Oh, sure. So I started watching wrestling when I was about 9 or 10 years old, back in 2006, and I was immediately drawn to Rey Mysterio. He was in the first ever match I watched on one random Friday night SmackDown. It was Rey Mysterio versus Elijah Burke. I'll never forget. And I saw this guy, this small guy. I was a small kid growing up, so I see this small guy with the colorful tights and the cool mask, and he's doing all these sorts of incredible things in the ring. And I was immediately drawn to that because these guys seemed like, even though he was small, he seemed larger than life, so to speak. And I really was drawn to that. And I was also just drawn to the cool athletic things these guys were able to do in the ring.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same. I started watching wrestling in the early 2000s. As a child, I was only probably like 5 or 6 years old when I started really watching wrestling. But obviously when I started to understand wrestling, I was, early teenage years and stuff like that is when I really started to explore different types of wrestling outside of WWE. But it is weird that, like saying before how the core of it is we just love wrestling. No matter what reason we love it for, what I find is the best thing about wrestling is that it's so subjective. You won't meet two people that have exactly the same story with wrestling, exactly the same. You might get a few people that have the same favorite match of you, but the reason why you love that match is generally always different or just varied. I just think it's just a wonderful, wonderful thing. And I think with this show, I don't know if you'll agree, is that Rumble in general, I think, is one of the most fun nights in a WWE calendar year. I don't think there's really any more guaranteed night where you're going to get a fun time. Would you say that's something that you agree with?
I 100% agree with you there. The Rumble is always fun, no matter what. You're going to get surprises. You're going to get debuts. You're going to get returns. You're going to get the Rumble match itself is always just fun to watch. The unique format really lends itself to entertainment value. And I really just think that I think that if you're going to show someone who's not a wrestling fan one show, one event, you show them a Rumble because they could instantly. The rules aren't very tough to explain, and I think it's just entertaining to watch for anybody, not just diehard wrestling fans.
Yeah, I agree with you. Because I think you look. Well, there's 2 Rumble matches, so that's 60 different people, essentially in 2 matches. If you got a person who knows very little or knows not a lot about wrestling, that's 60 different characters. You will surely find someone in there that you'll like, if anything. So, and like you said, it's a very simple match to follow along with, and stuff like that. But before we kind of break down the card as it was, going into this without knowing what you know now, were you excited about the show leading up to it?
I thought this card looked absolutely stacked heading in. It was just I was looking forward to, I think, every match. There wasn't a match, whether it would be for the in-ring quality or the storyline quality or some combination of both. I really think that every match on this card had something promising about it.
Yeah, I agree with you. The card, if you just looked at it on paper, you could put it up against anything and you could, it really would rival it. I don't know what your opinion is on the kickoff show concept. I know it was originally scheduled to be 2 matches, but we got 3. Do you think it hurts someone being on the kickoff as opposed to the main card, or do you just think that WWE, with their philosophy of just giving more instead of sometimes the less is more approach, do you think that it's a good thing still to be on the kickoff, or do you think that because you're on the kickoff, you're almost kind of looked at as unimportant?
Well, it's tough to say. I think that it means different things to different folks. I think that personally, I'm not a huge fan of the pre-show because, well, tonight's was 2 hours long. That's just too long, no matter what. But the WWE has set the precedent that the pre-show doesn't count. They did that back at Survivor Series when they didn't add in that tag team Survivor Series match. They didn't add that score in to the overall total for the night, and that's basically said that match on the pre-show didn't count towards the actual show. So ever since then, it's been tough for me to really justify these pre-show matches existing because WWE has already said that they essentially don't count. That being said, I think with tonight's pre-show, it helps for some, it hurts for some. I think Rusev and Nakamura were hurt by it because of where they were a year ago. Nakamura won the Rumble last year. Rusev was the number 1 entrant in the Rumble last year. But for the guys like the Cruiserweights, who there's no guarantee that they're going to be on a main card, I think it's a great showcase for them because they get more time than they would if they were, they'd probably be saddled with like 8 to 10 minutes on the main card. They get a little bit more time and a little bit more freedom to explore the ring, to explore their movesets on the pre-show. So it really is. It depends on the wrestlers and it depends on the viewer. Some people probably like the pre-show because it's more wrestling. How could you say no to more wrestling, right? But it's 2 hours. Even the regular hour pre-shows are long. 2 hours was just too much to handle.
I agree. Like asking anyone, especially in this day and age where everyone's attention spans is so short. Asking anyone, essentially we're sitting down and watching wrestling for 7 hours. That is a long time. Like in Australia, the main show starts, the kickoff started at 8:30 this morning and it finished at 3:30. That's my whole day. I've just sat down and watched wrestling.
Yeah,
I understand.
That is literally an entire day's. That's an entire day of wrestling.
It is, and like for someone like me, sure, I'm gonna sit down and watch it and enjoy it and stuff like that. But I wouldn't ask, a casual wrestling fan to sit down and spend their whole day watching wrestling. I'm sure I didn't say come and watch the main show, but I'm not going to invite them over for the kickoff when essentially the kickoff is sure the matches were good, but essentially the kickoff is just explaining what's kind of been going down the last 5 weeks of TV to get ready. It's just a long time to ask anyone to watch anything, wrestling, sports, whatever it may be. That's a long time. That's like my whole day. I've just sat down and been focused on the television. But in the kickoff, it was originally meant to be scheduled to have 2 matches. We end up getting 3. And I know this is pretty hot topic as of late is the Revival. And you had Scott Dawson and Razor going up against Bobby Roode and Chad Gable. I think it was said that if Dawson and Razor won, they would get an opportunity at the Tag Team Championships or something like that. Just kind of taking a step back before we talk about the actual match itself, the Revival. They're a phenomenal tag team, one of the better tag teams, and all this stuff is going down with them apparently requesting a release or whatever it may be. Are you enjoying the ride that this is kind of taking us on? I'm assuming the end game would be the Revival are getting the tag team championships, but I mean, WWE have done crazier things in the past. Is this something that you're enjoying, just watching the Revival kind of get their opportunities and kind of whatever way it is, they're getting screwed out or they're trying different things, or just are you enjoying the ride that they're kind of going on?
The Revival have been on TV more lately than they have been in the entire year or so they've been called up. Maybe year or 2 years. I don't even remember when they got called up, honestly. But I think that it stinks that they've had to endure as much as they've had to in terms of mismanagement. But like I said, they're on TV now. They're getting tag title opportunities, and they're getting a chance to display why they're the best tag team, one of the best tag teams in the world. So, yeah, I'd say I'm enjoying seeing them more, and I'm enjoying the ride this is going to take. Hopefully it culminates in them holding up those Raw Tag Team Championships.
I agree with you completely because I've always kind of said this and especially with talking with different people, a point I always try to bring up, and I think you'll probably agree with me just by talking to you now, is that I try to get in the mindset of a casual wrestling fan sometimes because, I'm so involved and just I live, breathe watching wrestling all the time, is that to a casual fan, they don't know that the Revival are as good as they are. We do. Me and, you and I know that. But to a casual fan, it's going to take some time. So at least, if anything, they're sure they're heels, but there's such a grey area now with faces and heels. I still think it does matter that there's a good guy and a bad guy, but there is that little bit of a grey area. If anything, a casual fan may feel sympathy towards the Revival in some ways for all of this stuff that's happening. So I just think, I'm enjoying this ride, and I know how good the Revival are, but to a casual fan, it may not really be transcending into that yet.
Yeah, that's a very good point, is that they really aren't, they probably aren't resonating with casual fans the way they are with the hardcore fans. Because if you're a casual fan, you might turn on Raw one night and see them, and they might be losing. And they might be putting on a match with Lucha House Party that goes 4 minutes and doesn't really do anything for anybody. If that's what they're seeing, then they're going to be predisposed to not want to watch the Revival, which is sad because the Revival are fantastic and everyone should want to watch them.
Yeah, I agree.
But I think that there needs to be a step taken with them. Like if winning the Raw tag titles, and like some people take the stance that championships don't mean as much in WWE because it's scripted, but I disagree with that. I think the minute that they get the Raw tag team championships, if they do, fingers crossed they do, I think that they're going to resonate a lot more with casual fans because they're the champions. They're the people you want to tune in to see.
I agree with you completely. Just because something is scripted or whatever it may be, I don't know where your mindset is, but do you view WWE as a sport? Do you view it as a TV show? Like, where do you meet in the middle, and do you see it as sports entertainment? Like, how do you watch wrestling in that sense?
Oh man, that's a very good question. I don't think I look at it as sport. I'm a big sports fan, and I always keep it separate from sports. I watch it for entertainment, but championships still matter to me because I'm watching a show where the main goal of said show is to win championships. I know that sometimes feuds aren't going to need titles, and you're not going to have the title in feuds, and that's fine. But if I'm watching a tag team whose goal is to become tag team champions, I'm going to want them to be tag team champions. That's going to matter to me.
Yeah, I agree with you. I view it as entertainment. It's a television show, essentially, just like anything else, just like whatever else we're watching. When WWE, I think Triple H has said this in many interviews, what is their direct competition now? And he kind of says everything, because whatever else is on at that time is competition, which I agree with him on that point. It's a television show. You're trying to captivate an audience no matter what it is. But anyway, heading into the kickoff, we had this match. There's not really much to talk about other than the fact that I don't know where this is going next, because it was just like, did you take anything away from this match?
I just didn't. I didn't understand it. Quite honestly, I know it's a way to get the tag champs on the show, which they should be on the show, and it's good that while his partner is injured, Razor gets to be part of the Royal Rumble show, even if it's the kickoff. I really don't like what that does to the Revival, though, because Dash isn't hurt. Dash Wilder is not hurt so far as I know. He just sort of got left out in the cold so he could do this like random weird tandem of Razor and Dawson. And I think that didn't help the Revival at all. I think that this is the first time we've seen AOP in any measure in quite some time. So I can't knock that because I like AOP. They should be on TV. But this didn't really do much for me.
No, it didn't for me either. And I thought, in a sense of like, okay, if we're going to do this, maybe they would go over, but they didn't. And I was like, okay then. And the match itself, I don't even remember anything that memorable about it. It was fine. It just seemed to me as a way to get them on the card.
Yeah, and that's that's going to happen. They're going to do things to get folks on the card. I can't knock that.
No.
But I can knock the way in which they do it. And I agree with you is that when they came up with the idea that Dawson and Razor are going to tag, and if they win, their teams will earn title shots or however it played out, I thought they were going to win. Yeah. Because that sets up challengers for Rude and Gable. Like, who's left for them to face if they're not going to be facing the Revival or AOP anytime in the future? Like, who's next?
The Raw Tag Team division is thin.
Yeah.
As opposed to SmackDown's Tag Team division, which I think is very good. We'll talk about SmackDown's Tag Team division as we kind of roll on. But it is thin, and I kind of don't see where they're going with this. But, they're all on the card, and it was a nice little way to get an extra match on the kickoff. Like you said before, it's more wrestling, and if you're going to have a 2-hour kickoff, you may as well fill it with matches, in my opinion.
Yes, that's a good point.
And instead of just, rehashing the same crap over and over again and, playing the same promo and playing the same ad, at least put an extra match on there. And that, in this case, I got 4 extra guys on the Rumble, whether it's on the kickoff or the main card. It's still all on the WWE Network. There's really no difference, for me at least. Watching it on the WWE Network, it kind of all flows into one, really.
Yeah.
So that is what it is. But moving along, we had Rusev defending the United States Championship against Shinsuke Nakamura. I'll let you kind of give your thoughts on the match itself and just where it kind of, how the kind of finish went down.
I thought this was a fine match. I thought it was pretty good for what I expected. It was. I will say it was hard to really focus in because all you could think about with Rusev and Nakamura is where they were as opposed to where they are now. And you could say, yeah, they're feuding over a title, but the United States title has devalued so much to the point where it almost doesn't really feel that important anymore. But I thought the match was good. I thought the finish was a little screwy. I don't like seeing Lana basically just be used as like a prop, and especially as it led to her losing out in her Rumble spot, which is kind of sucky. But I was shocked at the end, Nakamura picking up the win and becoming the new United States champion. That shocked me. I didn't see that coming. I don't think many people saw that coming. And shock sometimes is good, sometimes it's bad. It really depends on where they're going from here. And I will say that the match was good, and I think I want to see where they go next.
Me too. I think they've had a few matches in the past. I think back to like I want to say it was Fastlane last year. They had a really, really, really fun match, and I thought this one was good. I'm on the same team as you here. I was very much shocked that Nakamura won it back. I generally thought that Nakamura was not going to win here. I just thought that this was just something for both of them, or Rusev to defend, someone for Rusev to defend against, get a match on the kickoff for the US title. WWE have taken away automatic rematch clauses. Where does your head kind of lie on that? Because I know for me is that, okay, it's one thing to take away these automatic rematch clauses and everyone has to earn their kind of other a rematch or a title match, whatever it may be. It just seems like WWE don't know how to not book them straight away, like we had Becky and Asuka. And I know these people are still earning their championship matches, which is fine, but what's your kind of take on the automatic rematch clause not being a thing, but still kind of being a thing in a sense?
Yeah, I don't hate that it's gone, because I always thought the automatic rematch was just like sort of lazy booking. I always thought that it was just sort of like, oh, well, we've already got a match for next month because you lost your title, so you're going to get your rematch. But like you said, I don't think they know how to book without the rematch clause. And I do think that the way Rusev lost, sort of on like he was distracted, like a distraction finish, I think that lends itself to him getting a rematch, and I think he will, just because I don't know if they know what's next. I don't think they have a solid plan in place, honestly.
No, I don't, because we've seen many times in the past that I think WWE, not booking on the fly, but booking in the short term instead of the long, and that can hurt people. I'm not saying it hurt Rusev or it hurt whatever, but it's just, if they're not booking with a long-term goal, and obviously we don't know where they're going with this, there may be a shinier plan that's kind of laid out and ready to go, but because WWE, it's event after event after event, like you look at the next 2 months, 3 months of WWE, we've had Rumble, we've got Elimination Chamber in 3 weeks, 2 weeks after that it's Fastlane, and then I think it's like 5 or 6 weeks to Mania. That's still 2 whole pay-per-views until Mania. A lot can happen between now and then, but WWE have so much to get to, is I think they're just booking show to show to show, instead of kind of laying out a plan, for the most part anyway. Okay, we're giving you this now because here, this is where we want to get to. They're just kind of figuring out the pieces along the way, which I think, for shock and awe, sure, that's fine. Nakamura winning shocked me. Like you said, it shocked you. But I think they need to, if they don't have a plan for this, we'll obviously see come SmackDown. That's all it is. It's just a shock.
I think you're hitting the nail right on the head. I think they did it to pop the crowd, to sort of shock the crowd. I don't think they have a plan in place, because long-term storytelling for the WWE creative team seems to be a crutch. They really haven't. Yeah, like they have one long-term storyline going on right now, and it's Becky and Charlotte and Ronda, Everything else has sort of been like it's like month by month. And that isn't always great. I personally love a nice long-term storyline that makes sense and plays out over the course of months.
Yes, so
I don't think we're getting that here. I doubt there's going to be some long Rusev Nakamura saga that extends through WrestleMania. I have a feeling that it might extend to the Chamber. It might not. It might not even get that far. We'll just have to wait and see, I guess.
Yeah, and it is what it is. Obviously, we can't change that, but for shock and awe, Nakamura winning was fine. I like Nakamura, and like you said, though, seeing where he was a year ago, winning the Royal Rumble, and now being, US champion, which I think the United States title has its own issues, and it isn't perceived as a very important championship, which is a shame because, a few years ago, John Cena was building that championship up to be a very important championship with his open challenges and that, and I think it's just fallen so far from that. It is a shame. But you know what? Nakamura getting the win. It was a fine match. Now, obviously the match on the kickoff that I think was, well, in my mind it was the best, was the Fatal 4-Way Cruiserweight Championship match. Now, obviously, I'm a little biased. I love Buddy Murphy. I was at the Super Showdown. I got to see him win in his hometown. It was amazing.
That's awesome.
It was a really fun moment. Like, I've never experienced that kind of atmosphere before. But it was just... I love Buddy Murphy. I think he's very, very good. And I think the whole 205 Live roster is really good. They don't really have anyone bad on 205 Live. And I think these four took the opportunity of being on the kickoff and knocked it out of the park, or at least in my kind of mind. Where do you kind of sit with this?
Yeah, I agree. I easily thought it was the best match on the kickoff. I have grown to love Buddy Murphy over the past year or so since his debut on 205. He fits the Juggernaut nickname very well because he's fast, he's strong, he's agile. His tope con hilo to the outside is like among the best I've ever seen. He gets so much distance and air on it, it's crazy. And I thought that the four men in this match, and kudos to Kalisto and Akira and Hideo for getting a title match and really helping themselves get some name brand recognition, because they've been out of the picture for a while because it really was the Murphy Ali show, which was great, and I have no problem with that. But now they have to change because Ali's on the main roster, and I thought this was a really good step towards identifying some possible feuds for Murphy, singles feuds heading forward. I think Murphy and Itami would be fantastic, and I think that this was a really good match. The four guys flowed together really well. It was very cohesive. There were a lot of great spots, as there are going to be in a cruiserweight match, and I think the right man won. Still, this is a big win for Murphy over not one, not two, but three top flight competitors as well.
Yeah, I agree, and I think what I like so much about all the guys on 205 Live is that their one common goal. Obviously, you want to be the best on that show, but I mean, their one common goal is to make 205 Live the show to watch, or at least when they're getting these opportunities, because everyone has their thoughts and opinions on 205 Live, like, it might have less viewership than the rest of the WWE stuff, and because WWE put out so much content, it might get the one that just gets pushed to the side for some people. But I think when it comes to having an audience on the kickoff, they kind of this is their way of explaining why you should be watching 205 Live every week.
Yeah, I agree. This is their one night a month where they go out, they put on a show, and they convince people, maybe I should get eyes on 205 Live. Yeah. A lot of people think there are a lot of differing opinions on 205. I actually had an exchange earlier today with somebody where they basically said that 205 Live was hurting the cruiserweights because no one watched it. But my argument was that just look at Buddy Murphy. Where was he before 205 Live? He was lost in the shuffle in a big, bad way. And now he's got more attention than he probably ever has in his career. and he's putting on killer matches, not just monthly, not just on pay-per-views, but every week on 205 Live. If you go and watch, if you take the time to tune in, you'll notice that he puts on great matches with just about everybody, just about every week. And I think that it's something worth watching. And I think they've made it worth watching, especially, it wasn't great to start, but guys like Murphy, guys like Cedric Alexander, Mustafa Ali have taken that show and really made it into a must-see event on now Tuesday nights.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. I think some people have got to realize as well is that I think WWE are in a sense, you may not agree with me on this, but I think WWE are in a sense if they're putting out content and they're putting out so much content to cater to every kind of audience. It's not necessarily meaning we want you to watch absolutely everything we're putting out, but we're trying to get each fan to watch our product. Whether you're only watching Raw, or you're only watching SmackDown, or NXT UK, 205 Live, the list goes on. They're trying to cater to every kind of market because, there might be people that watch WWE that only watch 205 Live. You really don't know that. And when you wouldn't blame them if you're getting this kind of match quality that you're seeing on the kickoff every week on 205 Live.
I think that's a very good point you make, is that they do. I think they do. They have each show, I think, serves a purpose. I think if you're watching Raw, you're watching for story and you're watching for characters. I think if you're watching SmackDown now, you might be more into the in-ring product. I think if you're watching, I think they put 205 Live on for hardcore wrestling fans who want to see the best wrestling that they can.
Yeah.
And I think that that's important because, a big part of wrestling is the in-ring competition. Well, it's not just about storylines. It's not just about characters and talking and stuff, and that's all important. But at the end of the day, what you do in the ring is going to resonate most with people.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah, so I think that with 205 Live, that's the case. I think they're trying to cater to people who just want to watch really good wrestling week after week, who don't necessarily need to be bothered with the other things that go into making professional wrestling. I think it's purely for the diehard wrestling fanatics.
Yeah, and I agree with you completely. I really do think in this match the right man won. I think Buddy should probably hold the title till Mania at least. There is a lot of talent on 205 Live, and you could nearly pick anyone to kind of have that spot with Buddy at Mania. There is obviously other ways that you can go, but I just think Buddy at Mania dropping the title to someone means the most.
Yeah, and I think Murphy's 100% earned the right to defend the belt at Mania with how he's put the brand on his back over the last couple of months. I definitely think he deserves that big moment. Before Mustafa Ali got called up, I had it in my mind that it was going to be Ali Murphy at Mania, and Ali was going to finally get that big title win. Now, though, they have a lot, and like you said, there's so many people that could just step up and fill that spot because they're all so talented. And I really think it's intriguing to think about where they go next with the belt because Buddy Murphy looks nigh unstoppable right now. And someone's going to have to step up, and I'm curious to see who does step up in the coming weeks and months and earns that Mania match with Murphy.
Yeah, I'm completely on the same train as you, and I just hope that they know what they're kind of getting themselves ready for because, as I said before, 205 Live to me seems to work like a team, and whoever is in that match is representing 205 Live as a whole, and I just I'm excited for where it's kind of going. At the start, I wasn't an avid 205 Live watcher. I really wasn't. As I've kind of progressed with some things and started to take note, even if it's just watching a few little clips on YouTube, it's made me aware of how great this show actually is, and I am taking the time every week to now watch 205 Live, and in terms of wrestling, I'm not really seeing anything better on a consistent basis every week. And yeah, like you said, it is more focused on the in-ring product. There is still characters, obviously, but it is for the quote-unquote wrestling fan.
Yes, it is. And I sort of had a similar thing where when 205 Live debuted, I watched the first couple episodes and thought, not really, because early in its tenure, 205 Live wasn't quite the wrestling show we know it to be now. And so I fell out. I fell out with it for a long time, for a while, until I started watching these Cedric Alexander matches, and I started seeing him chase the title. And I thought he did really well for himself, and he really made me a believer in the 205 Live crew. And that's transitioned to, he lost the belt to Murphy at Super Showdown. Murphy and Ali have had such fantastic matches. Murphy and Alexander have had such fantastic matches. It's really become something that I can't miss. Even if I watch it the next day or something, I can't watch it live. I know I have to go back and watch that hour of wrestling because it's the most exciting hour of wrestling you'll see on a week-to-week basis.
Yeah, I agree with you, and it's something I'm glad in the last maybe 6 months or so that I've really picked up on and really watched on a more consistent basis. Moving on to the main card, now, I had my kind of opinion on... I really thought after last year with how the card was kind of booked, with the men's Rumble in the middle, the women's Rumble in the main last year, I thought that the card would probably be sandwiched between the women's and men's Rumbles, whether it was the women on the end or the men on the end. Obviously, through other things that happened during the night, that's not how it went, and we know why now. But starting with Becky and Asuka, before we go into actually kind of breaking down the match, do you think this was probably the perfect match to start the night?
I thought it was, and I will say that I had the same exact thought as you, or I thought we were going to get the Women's Rumble to open the show and then the Men's Rumble to close it. But in retrospect, I am very happy with the decision to put Becky and Asuka on first. Obviously, it made sense for storyline reasons, so Becky can go do her thing later on.
Yeah.
But also, it was just a really, really hot match, and the crowd was so into it that it really made sense as an opener. It was probably the best thing they could have opened with.
Yeah, and I think because Becky is literally the top person in the company right now, kicking things off with her, and not taking away anything from Asuka, because I think some people sometimes, because of Asuka's kind of the way she kind of went after her undefeated streak ended last year at Mania, I think with her, problems that she had and kind of coming back up, I think sometimes people tend to sleep on Asuka, and Asuka, to me, sure, she's not my favorite, but I think she's one of, hands down, the best female workers in the company right now. So, and obviously, Becky is just... I think I was watching the Royal Rumble with my older brother and my sister and stuff, and my older brother kind of said something that resonated with me so well, is that the reason Becky Lynch works so well, at least from an in-ring standpoint, is, sure, Becky's not the most quote-unquote flashy wrestler there is, but her style meshes with pretty much the entire division. Like, she can have a good match with any girl they put her up with because her style meshes so well. And with Asuka, that is the perfect style for Becky in a one-on-one scenario where the crowd is 50-50 on, for the most part, on most things. There was a little bit of more of a lenience to Becky, but I just think this match flowed exactly the way I visioned it in my head to kind of go.
Yep. That's a great point you make. I really do think that Becky could wrestle a great match with just about anybody, and Becky and Asuka went out and they delivered a show this evening. They brought the house down. Yeah. I just think that their styles meshed well, like you said. There were great spots. There was great technical wrestling. There was great brawling. It had a little bit of everything in it, which I think makes for the most compelling wrestling match.
Yeah, I agree. I always say that I think the best wrestling matches almost flow like a 20-minute... If a movie was to happen in 20 minutes, I think the best wrestling matches flow like that. They have a beginning, a middle, and end, and, they just sandwich in everything in between, where we're getting to. And I think, there's all these flows and stuff of this match is, you had your spots, you had your technical wrestling, you had your story elements of, even people that just wanted Becky to win. There were so many times where Becky nearly did that, from your disarmers and, being locked in the Asuka lock, and then Becky doing the Asuka lock and Asuka doing the disarm her and stuff like that. I just think this match to me was just pure wrestling flowing perfectly.
That's a very, very great way to put it, honestly. It was wrestling. It was wrestling at its finest. And I am always going to pop for stealing signature moves, so I really dug the swapping of the disarmer and the Asuka lock. And I think it says something that Asuka needed to dig deeper into her bag of tricks and whip out that last submission hold to beat Becky. She couldn't beat her with the Asuka lock, so she had to reach into the bag and pull out the cattle mutilation. Yeah. And I loved it because I don't think that makes Becky look weak. No. I know a lot of people were saying, "Oh, she tapped clean. That's terrible." I saw some people say that she got buried, which I don't think people quite understand.
I hate that when people just.
I don't think they quite understand what that word means, but I really do think that both women came out of this looking like $1 million.
Me too. And with things like that, it's like, for one, it was a really cool finish. I absolutely loved the finish. It looked brutal. Asuka has a tendency with me. She makes things look really real, and it makes it look like she's hurting Becky Lynch, which is, aim of the game, in a sense. So the finish itself was just 10 out of 10 for me.
Yeah. Yeah, it was very well done. Just well worked. Told a great story. Like I touched on. Just made both women look strong. Made Asuka look strong, and made her look very technically savvy. Because her the way she transitioned into that final submission move was flawless.
Yeah, Asuka's just really, really good in the ring. And so is Becky. And I just think Asuka needed a certain win, and I think this was it. And I think it just builds on Asuka's journey to WrestleMania, because everyone's kind of talking about Ronda, Becky, Charlotte, whatever it may be. But there's also another women's championship match at SmackDown that we have to get to. And if you don't have a credible champion, it's going to go into the show looking rather weak.
Yes. I think that this was a much-needed victory for Asuka. I think that, and you mentioned this, how since she lost that undefeated streak last WrestleMania, she's sort of been I don't want us to call her an afterthought, but sort of she's been on the back burner. And I think that this goes a long way in establishing her as a credible champion. She couldn't win with shenanigans. She couldn't win any way other than clean. That much was clear to me, that she had to win clean, and she had to tap Becky out in order to really make herself a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah, I agree with you. I just thought the match was just really good. It was the perfect way to open the show. And, when we get to the Women's Royal Rumble, it obviously had implications for that later on. Now, we were talking about the Raw Tag Team division during our little recap of the kickoff. And the SmackDown Tag Team division is almost the opposite end of the spectrum in some ways, with how much talent they have. You have the Usos, the New Day, Gallows and Anderson, Sanity, the Bar. List goes on and on. But it was the Bar and Shane and the Miz in this one. And I don't know about you, but as soon as this one was announced, I was pretty certain Shane and the Miz were going to get the victory, going to get the SmackDown Tag Team Championships. I have been very kind of vocal with my displeasure of how often Shane McMahon wrestles. It takes away its special appeal, and it just takes away that nice feeling of seeing Shane McMahon wrestle when he's doing it every few months. And I don't know how it is for you. I like Shane McMahon, but I don't think necessarily you need to see him every single week, and especially wrestling at a lot of pay-per-views in a calendar year, as opposed to, I've said previously, people have their opinions on Stephanie, but when you see Stephanie, it's important. Especially when Stephanie wrestles, it's even more rare, and you know that it's going to be a big deal. With Shane, it's almost the opposite now, is that you kind of see him so frequently wrestle, it's taking away that buzz. Do you agree on that sense, or is it more so for you that it's just it's just another guy wrestling?
I think I lean more that way. I think that since Shane has come back to WWE, he has wrestled a lot more than I thought he would, and especially going after the tag titles is not something I saw in Shane McMahon's future.
No.
But I don't really mind it because I love watching Shane wrestle. The things he could still do at his age, that shooting star press, the leaps of faith he takes, all the crazy bumps he takes. It really just shows to me how much he loves this business. And I know that it's tough because he's a McMahon. A lot of people might be inclined to think that, oh, he's just here because it's his family business. But he really loves what he does. And I will never turn down a chance to see Shane McMahon wrestle because I know he's doing it out of love for the business. And I know that, he doesn't just feel like one of the guys. He still has somewhat of a special feel to him, although I don't know how frequently he's going to wrestle now that he's a champion. That might diminish. But I love Shane. I really like the storyline here. I was a big fan of all of this leading up to it, so I'm cool with Shane McMahon in the ring.
Yeah, and I definitely understand what you're saying because obviously Shane wouldn't be doing, shooting star presses at his age if he didn't love what he was doing in the ring and giving it 110% every time. And definitely, no matter how frequently or not he's wrestling, he's always giving it his full, wholehearted attention, which is a good thing because you don't want, a half-assed Shane McMahon because Shane's never been the most technically sound wrestler. He does what he knows, and that's what he does, and that's why people love him. But going into this match, were you in the same kind of bag as me as they were pretty much guaranteed to go over?
Yes,
yeah.
I was. I never entertained the thought that the Bar could retain. I have a feeling that they're gonna. This isn't like the end. I have a feeling that the Miz and Shane story is still evolving.
Yeah.
I think at some point they're gonna turn on one another. Maybe as soon as before Mania for a Mania match. I'm not sure, but I think that the minute this was announced, I was like, wow, we're going to see new tag titles, new tag champs for the first time in a while. And it's going to be The Miz and Shane McMahon, the most unlikely of tandems. And honestly, I'm here for it. I enjoyed seeing them win.
So did I, to be honest, because I'm on the kind of same page as you. They're going to turn on each other eventually. Whether we get it at for a Mania match or it's beyond, maybe they'll drag this out a little bit longer because I don't think they expected the response they got, well, at least as much of the response they got when they won the tag team championships at the Rumble. I really don't. I think they'll try and get as much out of this as they can. Where they have a match at Mania, I think it is the end game is Miz and Shane fighting one another. But yeah, I'm the same as you. I'm all here for it. It's something different, and it's exciting. It is a cool story.
Yeah, it really is. I know a lot of people didn't like the story at all, and it was polarizing in a way. But I was a fan. I think the Miz is doing really great work here. Like he's not quite a face. Like he's still hit the Miz, but he's definitely leaning more. He's leaning into this storyline, giving it his all. I appreciate that. Shane is going to do what he can to further the storyline. I appreciate that. And the thing with the Bar, I feel like the Bar's title reign had run its course. I didn't know where they were going to go with the belts next. So in that regard, it made me easy to accept new champions.
Yeah, me too, because if in a world where the Bar would have retained, it's kind of like they don't really have much else to really... other teams to really fight without rehashing everything. And people within, watching WWE always complain that WWE do things too many times and they milk everything way too dry. And this is different, and it gives an opportunity for, there's still, like I said, 2 pay-per-views before Mania. Even if we do have a turn before Mania and, they're not the tag team champions going into Mania, there's still 2 pay-per-views where they can have matches with other tag teams, and you're in the ring with The Miz, you're in the ring with with Shane McMahon. It is a different level, and that's not a discredit to the tag team division. It's just The Miz and Shane are both top tier kind of guys. So it does help, and I'm all for this story. And is there anything that kind of, other than the shooting star press, is there anything that kind of stood out to you within the match?
I thought it was a pretty basic match. It wasn't, the craziest thing besides the shooting star press, which will be forever ingrained in my memory. I'm trying to rack my brain. It was just good teamwork by Miz and Shane. I like the matching jerseys. That was fun.
Yeah, me too.
There were just some spots where Shane would jump in to help out the Miz if he was getting double teamed. I like that. So I like that sort of spot because it shows how far the two have come from Shane wanting nothing to do with the Miz to him risking his own well-being to tag and to have his partners back. I like that sort of development.
Yeah, me too. I thought the match went exactly how I kind of visualized with them holding up the titles at the end. How we got there was fun. It was a good tag team match. It was probably, honestly, better than I expected it to be. Out of everything on the main card, this was probably the one I was least excited about, and that's not really saying much because I was kind of excited about everything. But this was, out of everything, this was my kind of my other match that was just kind of there. It was fun. It was what it was, and I'm excited to see where this story goes because it helps Miz, really, and we want, a lot of people have been saying they want more from the Miz and they want him to have more opportunities than that, and this helps him. If he gets a victory over Shane McMahon with the eventual end game of them turning, it just helps the Miz.
Yeah, that's a big time victory still, and I don't think I think that's something that might never diminish. Is that beating Shane McMahon is a big deal because he's a McMahon.
Yeah,
he's been relatively he's taken losses, but he's always taken losses sort of on his own. Like when he lost to Taker, he lost to Kevin Owens, both those cell matches. He sort of beat himself.
Yeah,
he's still tough to beat.
Yeah,
and I think that'll be a huge win for The Miz. And I want more opportunities for The Miz. I want The Miz to have the world. I want everything he wants, I want. And so I'd love to see him, as much as I love seeing him in this tag team and seeing him with a title and with something to do is very, very good. I want to see, singles Miz is just different. It's just on a whole other level. And I can't wait to see him, get back to that and get back into the title hunt.
Me too. I'm on the same page as you. I think Miz is great, and excited to see where this kind of heads and stuff like that. But moving along, we had Ronda Rousey defending her Raw Women's Championship against Sasha Banks. I don't know if you've seen this on the internet or on Twitter or wherever, but a lot of people were predicting that this match was going to steal the show, was going to, be the one that we're talking about at the end of the night. I wasn't necessarily going into this match thinking that, because I think thinking that sometimes can almost, you overhype it and then it doesn't live up to your expectation and it doesn't seem as good. Going into this, do you think they've done enough with Sasha to build her up to be a credible challenger for Ronda? Because Sasha's great, and I was the biggest Sasha Banks fan, a couple of years ago, but there is no doubt in my mind and in a lot of people's minds that this last, maybe year, she has fallen off a little bit. It seems like last year she was kind of just floating and, she was just with Bayley and she's kind of just almost stalling to a certain degree. She was just kind of there. Do you think going into this, they did enough to make you at least believe that Sasha is credible to beat Ronda Rousey?
Not quite. You make a great point about Sasha sort of being in like a holding pattern for the longest time, and her rising to the level of number one contender seemed to happen in the almost out of nowhere. It was just, she wasn't even on the mindset of anybody one week. The next week, Ronda Rousey's singing her praises, saying she wants to fight her for the title. I don't think that's great storytelling because it was just too quick, and it was like, oh, we need someone to face Ronda. I think that this was a match people wanted to see. I just think the way they got to it wasn't great. And I feel I want to go back to what you said just a minute ago about a lot of people on the internet saying this was a possible steal the weekend type of match. I feel like you're subtweeting me almost because I said that in a column I wrote this past week. I said I think this match could steal the whole weekend, and I said that because what they have accomplished in the last 2 or 3 weeks, maybe it didn't build up Sasha as the one to take the belt off her, but what they did do was establish Sasha and Ronda as bitter rivals, as people who just flat out did not like each other. And I thought that would lend a sort of legitimacy to the fight. I thought it would feel like more of a fight than a wrestling match, so to speak. And I thought that in that regard, it was going to be violent, it was going to be hard-hitting, brutal. And I thought in that sense, it was going to be one of the best matches we saw this weekend. Now, that's up for debate. I thought it was good. I thought it was pretty good. But I mean, I can't in good conscience say that it stole the weekend for me. It wasn't the best match on this card. It certainly wasn't the best match of this weekend, given what happened with Ricochet and Gargano at TakeOver. So I am prepared to own up and say I was wrong in my prediction, but I do still think we got a good match out of it.
I agree. I didn't even put 2 and 2 together, to be honest. Then that was on me. My bad. But I never like to obviously have expectations of matches. No matter what you do, you're always going to have an expectation. You see a match on paper and you go, "Damn, this one's going to be good," or "I'm not really feeling this one," whatever. But when for me, when I watch wrestling, I try to hold things that I know will deliver to a fairly high standard, but I try to not overhype myself because it's much easier to get let down. Sure, when that happens, and I've done it many times in the past where I've overhyped something and it's lived up and beat my expectations, and that's amazing. Sasha and Ronda, like you said, do I think Sasha was credible? Did I believe that Sasha was going to be able to beat Ronda Rousey? Probably not. I didn't think it was going to happen, but I was on the same page as you. I thought they were going to deliver a pretty decent match. Did they steal the weekend? Not for me, no. Did they steal the night? Also not for me. They had a really good match, and there were some really cool spots in there. But for me, I don't know what it was, and this is the weird thing about wrestling. I really don't know what it was, but something was missing. There was so much momentum going into this match with how personal it really got, and bringing in the 4 horsewomen stuff and ABC, and it just felt like you said, you wanted this to be more of a fight and a violent kind of match in a sense. And for me, this just felt like a good wrestling match that almost lacked that violence.
I'm with you 100%. Honestly, that's the thing I'm taking away from this match, is that it felt like it was a very good wrestling match, but it felt like a wrestling match and not a fight like I thought. There was a certain violence missing from this. I felt like, with the arm drag spots and all the, the technical stuff, that it didn't feel like the slugfest, the bitter rivalry come to head that I thought it would.
Yeah, and especially, when you're watching Raw last week and you're ending the show with these 2 ladies in each other's faces. They look like they want to kill each other. So I think that sets up in people's mind. It's set up, obviously, in your mind. It's set up in my mind that this should be a fight. This should be just a lot of strikes and, not a lot of technical wrestling. And like you said, there was lots of arm drags and submission holds and stuff like that. And it almost seemed like I get where they were going, because it was almost like Sasha Banks was out wrestling Ronda Rousey, but it wasn't the time and the place, at least for me, for this kind of match. I wanted a fight. I wanted this to be brutal. I wanted this to be hard-hitting, and it just didn't fill that void for me in my expectations. Nonetheless, I still think it was a good match, and it did what it needed to do, because obviously we're on the road to Ronda defending the title at Mania, and I think in a sense maybe Ronda is kind of checking off the list of 4 horsewomen to get to Becky and Charlotte.
Yeah, it's fair. That's a fair assumption, I think, and that's a big feather in her cap. And that's what this match accomplished. That it was just another big win for Ronda Rousey. Because, whether or not Sasha really had the credibility to beat her, and I don't think that I didn't think that there was a chance that Sasha won. That's still beating one of the four horsewomen and one of the most decorated challengers she could have faced, and that looks good for Rousey.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Another thing I'll ask you is, do you think this was Ronda's best match that she's had yet?
No. I am partial to Ronda and Charlotte from Survivor Series more than this.
So am I. I just think that the sense... I don't know where you are on Charlotte Flair, but I do think that Charlotte is a step ahead of Sasha and Bayley. I think Becky and Charlotte are kind of just that little bit of a higher level than those two. And I do feel like when Ronda fought Charlotte, it felt like a bigger deal than Ronda fighting Sasha.
And there was more violence in that. That felt like a fight. That was a fight. You had blood, you had kendo sticks, you had all that. The whole thing that unfolded after the match was just brutal and brilliant to watch. And I think Sasha, on her best day, is up there with Becky and Charlotte. And I think even Bayley could be up there too, not as far as technical prowess, but she works the crowd really well and the crowd really loves her. But with Sasha taking a whole year basically to do nothing, that is where she is a level below in my eyes, because while Charlotte and Becky have been doing all these incredible things over the last 8 to 10 months or so, Sasha hasn't done much of anything. She's been teaming with Bayley. She feuded with Bayley for a week, and they went back to being teammates. It's been sort of weird watching her devolve into almost mediocrity. Yeah. I mean, let's call it what it is. She hasn't done anything on the main roster in over a year. She hasn't been great. She was even in last year's Rumble where she was the Iron Woman, it still didn't feel like she had a chance to win.
No way.
And that's the thing, is that without that credibility, you could coast on your accomplishments and your four horsewoman status, but you have to really earn the fans thinking that you are a credible challenger and could be winning championships. And I don't think she's earned that quite yet. I think tonight helped, and her promo work the last couple weeks has definitely helped. But I don't think she's at that level we've grown accustomed to seeing from Sasha, like the NXT level where she put on arguably the greatest women's match of all time, where she was, she's a 3 or 4 time Raw Women's Champion. It just doesn't seem like it's there right now.
I agree with you 100%, and that's not a discredit on her, because I am a Sasha Banks fan. I like Banks. I think she is very good. It's just, like we both stated, it's been a year of stalling and essentially doing nothing. It is a little bit of a shame, but also when she does get opportunities like this, she really does, to a certain degree, deliver. I definitely think like we both said, it was a good wrestling match. It just wasn't what we were expecting. But I do think that when Banks is given the opportunity, she does tend to deliver 9 times out of 10.
Yeah, that's a very, very fair point to make. I agree with you on that.
Well, moving along, we had obviously why we're kind of so excited about the Rumbles is the Rumble matches. And the Women's Royal Rumble is on first. Now, there's a lot to talk about in this because there's a lot of different stories happening, a lot of different spots. First and foremost, starting the Rumble, we had Lacey Evans and Natty. I don't know about you, but I was really, really surprised that Lacey was going number 1. I honestly thought it was going to be Ember Moon or Bayley. Do you see an appeal in Lacey Evans?
I do. I am pretty high on Lacey Evans. She's very athletic. I think she's got a great gimmick. She did a good job when she came out. There wasn't a huge crowd response because a lot of people probably weren't familiar with her entrance music or even her. But she did a good job with that short promo, getting the fans to boo her. And there's value in that. And I think she's got tons of value doing that. I think she's going to be a very good heel for years to come. I didn't think I'd see her at number one. That shows, I think, that they're pretty high on her, giving her a marquee spot like number one. I thought Bayley was going to be like the Iron Woman of the match. I'm surprised she didn't come in until 27 or something.
Yeah.
And I was very surprised at that. But I thought both Lacey and Natty, for entering the match 1 and 2, did a good job for themselves. Obviously, Natalya lasted like 55 minutes. That's what they call a pretty good showing.
Yeah. I think with Lacey is that I've always stated this to people whenever I kind of talk about wrestling with anyone, is that so many people in this day and age have a tagline. Like you have Sasha, she's the boss, and Charlotte, she's the queen. Lacey actually has a gimmick, and she lives that gimmick. I think that's something to say about her commitment to the gimmick itself. Like, she's the lady of WWE. She isn't just saying that as a fancy kind of slogan. She is a lady. The way she dresses, just her aesthetic in general, almost to a sense the way she wrestles, it makes me excited to watch her. And honestly, since the original Mae Young Classic, she's evolved so much in her in-ring work, taking away her character stuff, but her in-ring work has gotten really, really good. And it just is a nice thing to see someone have a gimmick, which a lot of people are just people with a tagline. And it does, I agree with you, it does obviously show that they have some faith in Lacey. Number one, cutting a promo before the Rumble. Number two, lasting as long as she did, and starting in a marquee spot at number one. So that is good, and I think Natty was probably the right person maybe to, counteract Lacey with at the start. Just in the kind of beginning stages of the match, is there anything you can remember that really stood out to you?
Jeez.
I know honestly, I'm trying. We've only kind of watched it once, and we're still kind of taking it all in. But is there anything that you can just really recall sticking out to you from the first kind of group of girls?
I honestly no. Because a lot of the call ups and a lot of the marquee spots came in late. The marquee players came in later in the match. I thought the beginning of it was not dull, but lacking star power, maybe with the exception of Ember Moon, who I figured would come in early. She did come in early. She lasted a long time, too, but I saw somewhere she had no eliminations in this match, and she was in there for a very long time.
Wow, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, I think that's a discredit to her, because going back to that, they had the Battle Royal at Evolution, and she eliminated, I think, 5 women. I think she eliminated the most women in the match. And to have her come into the Rumble in an early spot and have her just sort of sit there, I think that's a discredit.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I know the Rumble is very a night of surprises, whether it's NXT people or people coming back. I think in contrast to last year, it was the first ever Women's Royal Rumble, and they had a lot of, the past. There was a little bit of the future in there as well. But it was about, going back over our history and kind of giving the kind of thumbs up to the girls that got us to this point. With this year, it was the complete opposite, with the exception of Maria Kanellis. It was all future stars. You had a lot of stars from NXT and NXT UK. Is that, for you, I know some people like having old kind of workers come back. For me, I get really excited to see young talent shine and get an opportunity. Are you the same with me on that?
Yeah, I'm right there with you on that. I like this year's Rumble more than last year's, precisely because we got to see the future of the business.
Yeah.
Not to say last year's wasn't great, because it was fun, and I always like seeing legends and surprise entrants pop up. And like you said, it was sort of an ode to the women who got us here, and that's fine. But the thing with that is that WWE would have had to go to a lot of the same people, I think, if they wanted to do sort of a similar thing where they brought in a lot of legends. Just because women's wrestling, they don't really have as many like trailblazing names as the men's side of things does. and that's not their fault. That's just because WWE really didn't care about women's wrestling for the longest time. But I really like seeing the future here. You know, Io Shirai, Kairi Sane, Candice LeRae, who I was very excited to see because she's gotten lost in the shuffle in NXT.
Yeah,
I think she's a lot better than what we've seen from her. And Casey Catanzaro is just awesome. And,
she's so athletic. Like, that girl can do things that I've never seen before. And, we talk about, like, Kofi having his spots and Naomi having her spots, but Casey had a great spot of staying in the Rumble with that handstand and coming onto the thing. She is one that in the Mae Young Classic last year, I was pleasantly surprised with. Sure, the girl has, she is a little green and she's got a lot to learn in the ring, but that you can't teach experience. Her getting opportunities like this is perfect for her. I think she could be a real big star in the next couple of years for NXT.
I agree. She's got mainstream crossover appeal, which comes from her having done American Ninja Warrior and being so successful in that people know who she is outside of wrestling, which is huge.
Yeah.
For any star to have that crossover appeal is monumental. She put on 2 good matches in the Mae Young Classic, I thought. I thought her match with Ripley was very good.
Yeah.
And I thought her performance this evening was very good. The way she was able to, she's on her hands, she's on the ring post, and she's able to just sit up. That core strength is unbelievable. For someone of her size to be that strong is incredible. I thought she had a great showing for herself, and I think the future is bright with Casey Catanzaro.
Me too. I think out of nearly everyone in that match in terms of the NXT talent that kind of got a chance to shine, she probably impressed me the most. Just in terms of what she, even in her terms of her kind of evolving since the Mae Young Classic, you can tell she has gotten more experience in the ring just with wrestling in general, just on NXT live events and stuff like that. So she impressed me probably the most. The only other kind of star that I was really, really happy to see, I love Rhea Ripley. She literally is from Adelaide, which I'm about an hour away from. So there is a little bit of biasness, like with Buddy. But Rhea, in the 2 years since, the original Mae Young Classic, she is night and day different. And she is an absolute badass who just kicks people's ass. And I could not be more happy to see Rhea get an opportunity in the Rumble this year. And she had a pretty okay showing, in my opinion.
Yeah, I remember that first Mae Young Classic watching her, and I remember I think I tweeted it, that Rhea Ripley could be the breakout star of the tournament because she was so athletic and so good for her age. She's so young. And then coming in and seeing her in the next Mae Young Classic, I was like, is this the same person? Yeah. She was so different. She had the gimmick going for her. She had a character. She was fleshed out. She was doing, she wasn't just a face. She was Rhea Ripley, badass. And I think that she just oozes star power. She oozes charisma. She's great in the ring. Even if she wasn't great in the ring, I'd still be afraid of her and also a big fan of her. But I think she's done really well for herself. She's doing great work over on NXT UK. And I thought I think she's one of the brightest stars of this future crop of talent.
Yeah, me too. I think a lot of people, when the original Mae Young Classic came around, a lot of people were talking about Toni Storm, and kind of Rhea was just kind of lost in the pack in the first Mae Young Classic. She impressed me as well in the first Mae Young Classic, but then coming into the second one, she was one of the most talked about talent coming out of that tournament because she was so good, and then going into NXT UK and getting an opportunity on the Royal Rumble was just I just thought perfect for her. And she has some killer entrance music as well, so
yeah, she does.
Women's Royal Rumble, going into this, I know that a lot of people were saying it was going to be Charlotte and Becky were going to get thrown out together, or Becky was going to win. Was there really anyone outside of those two that you thought going into this that maybe were going to win the match?
Not really. I picked Becky to win. That was my thought process for a while. It just made sense in the storyline. I will say that I thought Ember Moon had a bit of an outside chance. Something about her, I love her. I love her character. I love her ring work. I think she's fantastic. I think she's so underutilized. And I could have seen it if this clearly wasn't like a launching pad for a Becky Ronda thing or a Becky Ronda Charlotte match. But it was. And in that light, I knew it was going to come down to two people, Becky and Charlotte, which, they're so hot right now, it makes sense.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%. The only reason I was actually on the same page as you is maybe like an Ember Moon is because there is another title match that they could choose. They could choose Asuka. It's not like they have to choose the Raw Women's Championship. And, with the history of Ember and Asuka, I really thought that could have been something. Ember's never beaten Asuka. They obviously put on tremendous matches in the past. And yes. Ember and Asuka could be a WrestleMania match that could really kill it. And especially like we were talking before is that Ronda and Becky, or Ronda, Becky, Charlotte, wherever we're kind of going with this, is so hot and has so much attention that you don't want to discredit how good Asuka is and how good it's almost a great opportunity for the SmackDown Women's Championship match to really show why they should be the main event.
Yeah. Honestly, like let's not shortchange Asuka and the SmackDown Women's Championship and all this because she's doing great work with it. She picked up a huge win earlier in the night. She's good. She's credible. She's dominant, and there's so many stories you could do with Asuka. And I think that's what led Ember to me was that they've had such a storied past together, and they put on just some great matches. Their last match in NXT at Takeover Brooklyn, whichever number it was one of my favorite matches, regardless of gender. I think I've seen in a long time.
Yeah,
so I would have loved to have seen Ember and Asuka. I would have loved to see Sonya Deville and Asuka, but it didn't seem like it was in the cards.
No, it didn't. And in terms of the whole match itself, was there anyone that stood out to you in terms of everybody that just kind of stole your attention? Maybe someone you weren't necessarily that high on before. Was there anyone in your mind that's like, oh, this girl is really good and she got a kind of chance to shine in the Rumble?
I thought, for me, there were a couple. I thought Kyrie did really well in the Rumble, but to me, Io Shirai coming out, hitting that moonsault right off the bat, I think that was as big an oh wow moment as you could have got. Besides when Becky came out, I think that was like one of the biggest like OMG moments of the show. And I mean, I love Io Shirai. I've seen her work in the past. I've seen her work just in Stardom and across the way in Japan. But a lot of people haven't. A lot of WWE fans are just getting exposed, especially if you don't watch NXT. You're just seeing her for the first time if you didn't watch the Mae Young Classic. That is as good a way to make an entrance to make an introduction as you could do.
I agree. I agree with you completely. She has a lot of untapped talent that we haven't seen from her in WWE, obviously, and just even in NXT to a certain degree, we haven't seen the full extent for what she can do. Because I'm like you, I've seen her in Japan, and I know what that girl is capable of, and she's capable of a lot more than what we've seen in her short time that she's been with WWE as in the company. I thought she had a fantastic night, and then just a few little other people. Someone I was really excited to see, and I always am, is Ruby Riott, but I thought here she didn't really shine too much, and it's always someone that I just think she has a lot more to give. The Riott Squad in general, do you think it's smarter for them to stay a unit, or do you think it's better for someone like Ruby to distance herself from the faction, distance herself from the group? And do you think if they did that, those three girls would get completely lost?
I think Ruby would do fine on her. I think Ruby should be on her own. I think that there's so much untapped potential, and I think that there's so much she could be doing. But in the context of a stable, there's only so much you could accomplish. it was unique seeing like what the Riot Squad was doing when Ruby came out because they were both already eliminated. So they were picking people out of the ring, dumping them, helping Ruby out, and that's cool and all. But I think at some point she's got to break away because she could do so much as a single star. I love Ruby Riot. I thought this was going to be her breakout night, and I was disappointed, honestly. But I think she could do more on her own. As far as Liv and Sarah Logan, I think that they could make a run at the tag titles if they need something else to do. Otherwise, I think they both have untapped potential as well, especially Sarah Logan. I think Sarah Logan's very good and has just been shackled in the confines of a stable. I want to see them all get their chance as single stars because I think they all bring something different and unique to the table.
Me too. I think they are a good unit, but I almost think it's to the point where it's run its course.
Yes.
It's done what it's needed to do. It's helped the three girls kind of get to the spot that they're at. But like you said, I see a lot more from Ruby. I see so much in Sarah Logan just as looking at her, she's very different. She looks different to everyone else. And then you have Liv, who is, maybe she has an aesthetic that kind of is familiar to some other girls. She's a small that kind of girl, but Liv is also very good. And like you said, Liv and Sarah could easily have a run at the tag titles, but I do think it's probably time for Ruby to at least break away from the pack. And I'm the same as you. I thought this was going to be a really good night for Ruby Riott. And to be honest with you, she didn't really do too much to grab my attention. Going into the finish of this match, we kind of alluded to it earlier in the kickoff, how Lana got knocked down by Rusev and hurt her ankle or her foot or whatever it was. Do you think that was the best way to get Becky Lynch involved in that match, or could you have maybe thought of a better way to do that?
It's tough because it sucks for Lana that she basically was taken out of the Rumble match, a huge opportunity. One of the matches I think superstars probably look forward to most. It sucks that she got taken out of it, but for me, what I thought was going to happen was I thought Becky was going to ambush Carmella at 30.
Me too.
And I didn't want to see that either because Carmella definitely deserves to be in the match. No matter how I feel about them telegraphing number 30, which I didn't care for, but she deserved to be there. But Lana deserved to be there too. There just wasn't enough spots. There should have been 31 spots, but there weren't. So I think it was the best they could have possibly done. Well, with Becky. Yeah,
because in a sense, okay, so say if we went a different route and Becky was just a surprise entrant, then why wasn't Sasha Banks? Do you know what I mean? Then that's two spots that they're not giving to young talent. Maybe then a Kacy Catanzaro or a Rhea Ripley wouldn't have been involved in the match, and then we wouldn't have spots like this. So I get what they were doing, but I'm the same as you. It sucks for Lana. And I'm also the same as you as I thought that she was going to attack Carmella, and I also wasn't okay with that because Carmella deserves to be there as much as Becky Lynch or as much as Charlotte Flair. And I'm also on the same page as you as I don't like them telling us who number 30 is, or any entrant. I don't like when they tell us what number they're coming out. Because I just think it takes away from the surprise of the Rumble. That's an element of that match that's fun, is the surprise. You don't know who's coming out next. And, once you get to 29, it was okay, Carmella is next, and okay. Overall, did you think this match was good? Because for me personally, I thought it was a really good match, but I thought it may have went maybe 5 or 10 minutes too long.
It did go a long time. It went about an hour and 12 minutes. I'm seeing here. That's 15 minutes longer than the men's Rumble match went. It was a long. The end was a bit extended. But overall I thought it was the better of the two Rumbles on this show. I thought with the future stars getting their shine on, and I thought. Seeing Charlotte, seeing Becky, Alexa Bliss, Bayley, a lot of top names. I thought overall this match was good, even if the finish with Becky winning was like kind of obvious. Not obvious, but like definitely something a lot of people saw coming.
Yeah, I agree with you. I thought it was a really, really good Rumble match. Like I said, I did think it went maybe a little bit too long, but it didn't take away from the match at all. I didn't think because of this it was a bad Rumble or anything like that. There was one of two ways that I thought it was going to go, and that was the route they chose, and I'm obviously completely fine with that. We're on the road to Ronda and Becky, or Ronda, Becky, Charlotte. I am leaning towards more so a triple threat. To be completely honest with you, I think that's probably wrestling-wise, I think the triple threat will probably be a better match than maybe just Ronda and Becky. But that's just my opinion. I am excited nonetheless that this is the year. It's kind of, if they're not, like, there's no hotter story. Gender taken away, there is no hotter story than Ronda and Becky, or Ronda, Becky, Charlotte. There really isn't a hotter story. So, not just for women main eventing, but this is really, I know we got some time before Mania, this is the hottest thing going into that show.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely is. I'm actually on the other side of the fence where I'm looking more forward to the singles match, Becky Ronda. Nothing against Charlotte, because Charlotte's fantastic, and that triple threat match would be fantastic, and maybe even better from an in-ring standpoint than a Becky Ronda singles match. But I feel like this story is about Becky and Ronda. I feel like Charlotte is sort of like an outlier, and I feel like when you do Becky and Ronda, and then Charlotte could just have a WrestleMania rematch with Asuka, and the story is there, and that's going to be another fantastic match as well. Because outside of Charlotte, I don't know who on SmackDown challenges Asuka for the belt. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm in the sense of you, because maybe even a month ago, I was definitely on that page of why have one great WrestleMania match when you can get two out of this, and let's have Charlotte fight Asuka, just for the fact that, Asuka is the champion now, but she lost a lot of her mystique when she lost to Charlotte. It can kind of be a story of almost Asuka wanting to beat Charlotte so bad she's willing to put her title on the line to get this rematch, and you get another fantastic match, because really I thought last year's WrestleMania, Charlotte and Asuka was one of the best matches of the night. I really rated that match very high in my kind of list. And then you get two great matches. The story of Becky and Ronda, I do see what you're saying, is so hot that it almost counteracts whatever they do in the ring. It's so hot, it's so hyped that it's not saying it doesn't matter, but it almost is so hot that it gets to that stage where they could have a fine wrestling match and it would seem much, much better.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point. Is that no matter what they do in the ring, Becky and Ronda is just such an exceptional story, and I know it's going to get better going forward. Like they got 2 months just about to build to it. It's going to be good, and if the storyline is great and fans care about it enough, the match is going to seem good no matter what.
Yeah, I agree with you. Now, this next match, I have some opinions on, and I don't know how this is going to come across, but Daniel Bryan and AJ Styles WWE Championship match, they were in a tough spot. Plain and simple. They were. It was not the spot you really want to be in on this card. Directly after a Rumble, the crowd is very, worn out from that Rumble match. They have to have a match where they just choose to calm down from everything, whether they go and get a snack or use the bathroom, whatever it may be. It is a shame that two elite talent like AJ and Bryan is in that spot, and I even am a victim of this. I said this on my Twitter today, is that I hate the fact that I'm so disinterested in what is going on in the ring at the moment, because even at home, I just witnessed the 70-minute match that was amazing, and you had that's 30 different entrances we're seeing. That's high pace wrestling for 70 minutes. Even I need a break, and I found myself scrolling my phone, and even the people I was watching it was doing the same. It's a shame that we took it on this match, but the crowd did. It was very obvious that the crowd was quiet during this match. Do you think this has become a thing that the WWE Championship match is in this spot a lot on the card, and it's just nothing more than... Obviously, these two guys are really, really great, and their story, honestly, has been really great. But do you just think this is placement on the card, or do you think people are disinterested in the actual physical match itself?
Well, I know for me personally, I mean, I was worn out, and I was tired, and my attention to this match probably wasn't as good as the other matches on the card were. But I've also seen people saying the opposite, where they just didn't care about this feud because it's dragged on. I don't think it's dragged on. I love the story they're telling, so I couldn't disagree more with that notion. But I do think there are people out there that feel that way, so I think it's a mixture of both, honestly. Placement on the card was tough. Obviously, a match had to follow the Rumble. I just wish it wasn't the WWE Championship, the most prestigious quote-unquote belt in the company. But those are the breaks, I guess.
Yeah, and like you said, something has to follow it, and it is unfortunate it was this. I know that there's not really too much more to say on this, only because it just was what it was. The match was fine. The ending was odd, and I know that you'll probably have thoughts on this as well, but initial reaction to seeing Eric Rowan helping Daniel Bryan.
My initial reaction was am I still watching the same match?
Yeah.
Because the match was long, so maybe at some point it ended and I just didn't notice. But it was definitely one of the weirder angles I've seen in recent memory. I'm still working out my feelings on it, because when it happened, I was like, how the heck could they end a match with Eric Rowan coming out? But in a way, it's interesting because there's backstory when Wyatt was briefly a member of the Wyatt, or when Bryan was briefly a member of the Wyatt family for like 2 whole weeks. So there's some backstory, not a lot, but it's intriguing because I don't quite get why it happened, and I want to know why. So they've got me hooked, I guess, and just seeing exactly why Eric Rowan is out here helping Daniel Bryan.
Yeah, if they've done anything, I'm the same as you. I don't know how I feel about it, but I definitely want to find out why this has happened. My initial thing when I first seen him is like, what the hell? Like, what the hell's going on here? And then after the match when he told Rowan to pick him up and hit him with the knee. Obviously, there is some kind of alliance here, and like you alluded to, like how Bryan was in the Wyatt family for what seemed like a cup of coffee, but there is that intrigue to at least get us to tune into SmackDown this week, if anything. So, I mean, overall, what did you really think about this match? I know both of us seem to be worn out, and I thought the match was okay. It ran rather long, and I didn't really give it my undivided attention, which is a shame, and that's on me, but that seemed to be the general kind of consensus on this one.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to have to go back and rewatch this. I got into it at some point. It took me a while, and like you said, I probably didn't have my whole attention on it, at least for parts of it. I thought it was too long, and I didn't think it was as good as their encounter at TLC. But it was still a good wrestling match. You get Daniel Bryan and AJ Styles in the ring, and they're not going to turn out anything that's less than like above average.
Yeah, I agree with you there as well. I definitely tapped in the last maybe 6 or 7 minutes of this match. I was like, okay, this is pretty good. And even the crowd, you could hear, was starting to come back into this match, which is a good thing. But do you think in any kind of sense that if you're watching a wrestling match, no matter how excited you are as a fan, if the crowd is not invested in this match, do you think it does take away the television experience for us?
Yeah. Yes, I do. And I think that's what happened here. Was that if the fans aren't interested, if the crowd isn't like into it and they're not cheering and they're not, letting their voices be heard, then I think that detracts from the match for me.
I'm completely agree. If they're not interested, there's no reason why I should be interested. And it is, like we said, they're two elite talent. They obviously are not going to put anything, like, they're not going to stink out the place going into this match. They're very good in the ring. It was what it was, and if it does anything, like we said, it makes us want to watch SmackDown. There's not really too much more we can even really say on that, so I guess we'll just move on to the Universal Championship match. Finn Balor looking to gain the Universal Championship from Brock Lesnar. Now, obviously this match was meant to be Brock and Braun. That got changed to Finn and Brock. I personally, out of everything on the card leading into Rumble before the change, I was not excited to see Brock and Braun again. Just because I think WWE have had so many opportunities with Braun to give him the championship, and every single time, I think he's just lost one too many times. So I wasn't really personally excited to see Braun and Brock. But then when it changed to Finn and Brock, I was really excited about the aspect of Finn maybe getting this done. Now, obviously, he didn't get this done in this match. Were you excited about the fact that, A, are you a Finn Balor fan, and B, were you at least believing a little bit that maybe Finn could pull this off, this David versus Goliath story?
Okay, yeah, I am a Finn Balor fan, card-carrying member of the Finn Balor fan club. I did think that I didn't personally pick this. I thought Brock was going to win, but they did a decent job of making me believe in Finn by talking up just exactly how little of a chance Finn had with the tail of the tape, and the Vince McMahon promo was talking about how he's too little. They really hammered that home to the point where I thought there was a small chance that Finn overcame the odds. Demon or not, and I knew he wasn't going to be the Demon. He said as much like last week, but I thought there was a small chance he could win, and I definitely thought he would compete.
Yeah,
he did.
Me too. He really did. I know, like you said before, when people are using the word buried, I can't stand that. Sounds like you were on the same page as me. They don't know what that word means. And the first thing I seen as soon as Finn tapped out in this match is, Finn Balor's getting buried. No way in my mind did I think Finn Balor got buried in this match. He hung in there with Brock Lesnar. There was a couple of really sweet force finishes, and he took it to Brock. Finn is one of my favorite, at least male talents in the company. And I just think there is a sense of Finn Balor is almost us. He's almost in that sense of we see a lot of us in him, and who wants to, you want to take it to the big guy, you want to take it to someone like Brock, and he definitely did do that. I could be wrong, but the match itself wasn't all that long in terms of everything else on the card. It wasn't an incredibly long match, but I think it was pretty much how I see it kind of going, and I was the same as you. I definitely believe that Finn could have done this, and he came pretty damn close.
Yeah, the match was short, but you know what? At that point, it was so late into for us East Coasters, for us Eastern time zoners, it was so late into the night. Like that, I had no problem with that match running short. It ran about 8.5 minutes, I'm seeing here, and that's fine. Finn got his spots in. Finn looked like a credible contender. He looked like a threat. He hurt Brock Lesnar, which not a lot of people do. Brock was clearly feeling some pain in his midsection. Finn targeted that because he's a smart competitor. I thought he looked very good for the time. People say buried because he lost. If you lose, you're buried. That's the mindset of some people, and it drives me up a wall because that's just not. And especially after the post match beatdown, I knew people were going to say that. But Corey Graves actually made a really good point on commentary that the reason Lesnar snapped on him was because Balor hurt him, and Balor took the fight to him more so than almost anyone we've seen. Even some of the bigger guys haven't taken, like Braun and Braun and Brock's last match at Crown Jewel. Braun got like one offensive move in. Finn hit him with his finisher and almost pinned him. So that's not a burial. That's just sometimes someone has to lose the match.
Yeah, and I think it made Finn a lot more credible walking out of this match than maybe walking into it in some people's minds, because Finn has had a rocky kind of path, and it's only been in the last maybe 3 or 4 weeks that they've really given the kind of keys to the castle for Finn in a lot of ways. I think this match, if it went longer, I think it would have hurt this match, to be completely honest with you. I thought it was the perfect length of time. Like you said, it was very late into the show. At that point, we'd seen a lot of wrestling. We were definitely ready to see the Rumble, and I just think this match went exactly how it should have.
Yeah, any longer and it would have felt like it was dragging, because it would have been. And if they go long, you risk venturing into start spamming the F5 button territory and seeing that. I thought the Kimura was a smart finish because it's weird in a way, but it did protect Finn because he didn't have to take the F5, which is what Brock uses to put just about everybody away. And it's sort of similar to how Asuka needed to pull out a different submission. Brock needed to reach into his bag of tricks and pull out the Kimura to put Finn away. I thought that made him look good.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. There's not really too much more to say on that because we're kind of in the same point, is that this kind of went exactly how it should have. So I guess we'll just move on to the Men's Royal Rumble match, and I knew you'll probably have your own kind of opinion on this, but the start of the match was Elias, doing his normal stuff with his guitar, going to play a song, and out comes number 2 is Jeff Jarrett. Now, in the contrast of the Women's Rumble, there was, like I said, with the exception of Maria Kanellis, there was all future stars. Do you think this was a good use of a former talent? And what did you think of the interaction between him and Elias?
I mean, here's the thing. I had a feeling Elias was going to be 1 or 2 because he's got to play a song. Mm-hmm. I don't like seeing those spots go to I don't like that being a surprise unless it's someone who has a credible chance of winning. I don't like seeing them give the number 2 spot to Jeff Jarrett because he got eliminated in like a minute, and that takes out some of the fun of seeing someone go like the distance. You want people to go to the distance. I think a lot of people root for 1 and 2 to last a long way, and Jeff Jarrett had no chance of doing that, and it sort of took away some of the fun for me, honestly. I like the way they interacted though because they're similar in gimmick. They both like their music. And I thought it would have been cool if they actually did a duet, but I guess you got like Elias turning heel on him again. I don't know what the deal was. It was a good guy, and then he was a bad guy against Jeff Jarrett, but he was still trying to get the crowd into it at certain points during the match. Very confusing.
Yeah, I'm this kind of same as you. I love a good surprise every now and again in a Rumble with former talent. I think it's fun. But I just think that spot could have been utilized for someone else. Another kind of past talent that was in the match was Kurt Angle. He was in at number 4, I believe, or 5. He kind of was just, in a sense, did he just kind of feel like he was there? He was eliminated by Shinsuke, and it wasn't really that meaningful, at least in my eyes. Maybe it's just because I've watched a lot of wrestling today, and maybe I was just kind of going with the flow of this Rumble, but to me, that didn't seem really like that important that Kurt was even there.
No, I agree. I barely even thought twice when his music hit. He got a good pop from the crowd, but for me personally, I'll be honest, I have no interest in seeing Kurt Angle in the ring anymore because I'm worried he's going to hurt himself. Even in the Rumble, he's got to take a bump to the outside. He took a soft bump, but yeah, he just something about him just didn't really hit with me.
He's lost almost his aura.
His luster, yeah.
Yeah, and it was just, I'm not taking away anything from Shinsuke and stuff like that, but Shinsuke is in a spot now where he's not on the same level he was a year ago or even 8 months ago. Yeah, sure, he won the United States Championship and that, but if they're trying to put a little bit of gas in Shinsuke, that elimination should have felt bigger than it was, and it didn't. Maybe that's a discredit to the commentary team not really making it a bigger deal than it was, or maybe that's just us as fans not seeing it, but it almost should have felt bigger than it was, and it just wasn't. And I don't know, maybe Kurt's wrestled a little too frequently. There is a sense I'm the same as you. In a lot of ways, I don't really want to see Kurt wrestling anymore. There is a feeling of, I am afraid he's going to get hurt. He did protect himself a lot on the, a very soft bump to the outside to get eliminated by Shinsuke. So, to be honest with you, I thought Kurt was going to reverse Shinsuke and throw Shinsuke out of the Rumble, but it just didn't happen like that. In terms of like future stars in this match, one that come very, not a surprise, but I was just very happy to see was Johnny Gargano. I'm glad that he got an opportunity in this Rumble, and he did fairly well. Future stars in this match-wise, who really stood out to you?
Definitely Gargano, but I also want to touch on Aleister Black because he did it. I was kind of disappointed with him with how his run went. I thought he should have been more of like a featured player, like a major player in this match. He was just sort of there. He got his strikes in, but he got eliminated rather quickly. And I wasn't too thrilled with how they did that because he should be treated as a star. He should be treated as someone who contends right away. Like, he was built up for so long in NXT. It took him so long to lose. He's really only lost like 2 matches, both to Ciampa. And I thought they could have done more with him. But Gargano had a good run.
Yeah, I agree with you there because, sure, Aleister, I believe he eliminated Dean Ambrose. But Ambrose is another person that I think his heel turn has been, it's just kind of flustered. I don't think they really knew what their kind of plan was with him in the long run. And his character is just so, I don't even know the word, how to describe it. It's just very odd. And it doesn't feel like it's really connecting very well with anybody. So yeah, Aleister did eliminate Dean. But other than that, like you said, he was just kind of there. And it is a shame because Aleister is really, really, really good. And he should be treated very special in terms of his eventual main roster call-up because he is very special. And like you said, he's only lost a couple of matches in terms of everything. So it is a bit of a shame on how he was utilized in this match. Another thing that I want to ask you, though, is were you surprised there was no Velveteen Dream?
I was. I thought he was a shoo-in for this Rumble, more so than Black was, I thought. I don't know. I don't really know necessarily why they didn't. Like, what is there left for him to accomplish where he doesn't even need to get called up to be in this match. He just needs to make a once-off. Like, they're not calling up Gargano. I don't know what they're doing with Black, but they could have had Velveteen in this match, and it would have been the biggest pop of the night. I think that was a missed opportunity.
Me too. I was like you. I thought he was a definite shoo-in to be in this match. I thought it was guaranteed that we were getting Velveteen Dream. He wasn't on the TakeOver card and whatever else it was, but I generally thought he was going to be in, and I do think it was a little bit of a missed opportunity as well, just for a huge... if anything else, it would have been a huge just reaction. Is there anything that you want to personally touch on in the Men's Royal Rumble match that really stuck out to you in terms of anything? Is there something that grabbed your attention?
I think Andrade lasting as long as he did, really, I thought that was well done. He came in relatively, at 19, but he was in the Final Four. He had a good showing for himself. He eliminated Randy Orton, which is a big elimination because Randy Orton is a big time player in Royal Rumbles, having won 2 of them. I thought he really impressed me. I thought giving a spot to Noah, I hate No Way Jose.
Me
I
too.
I absolutely despise that man and everything he stands for. I thought giving him a spot was a waste. More so than like a Kurt Hawkins or a Titus O'Neil, because they amused me with their antics. No Way Jose came in, got eliminated in 1 second, and then Drew McIntyre blew up his conga line, which was kind of fun.
Yeah, it was. I appreciated that on an emotional level so much. You mentioned Drew. Did you feel like he had the night you're expecting him to have?
I thought he got eliminated a lot earlier than I would have thought. And by Ziggler, who I didn't anticipate showing up.
No.
So I thought that was a bit premature, his elimination. I love the way he eliminated Woods and Kofi. I thought that was well done. Sort of made him seem like the bad guy because he eliminated the fun. But I thought that he could have done more, honestly.
Me too. I was expecting Drew to be a major player in this match. Now, I'm not saying that he wasn't. He still had his moments and stuff like that. I honestly was not expecting him to be eliminated by Ziggler. I wasn't even really expecting Ziggler to be in this match. You know when you're getting to an end of a Rumble and you kind of going in your head, you're like, who's left that was announced? I knew there was Randy and I knew there was R-Truth. So I was like, okay, we're getting a surprise here. And I don't like to say this about Dolph because I like Dolph, but I was a little bit let down on the fact that this was our last surprise of the night. Well, we'll get to the number 30 in a minute, but this was the last surprise of the night, and it went to Dolph. I just think there's other ways to utilize him coming back. There's obviously a story there with Drew, and yes, he did eliminate Drew, and it went with the story and whatever. But just personally, I don't know. You could have given that spot to Velveteen Dream, for example, or whoever. But was there a sense for you? You may be different, but that it went to Dolph. Were you a little bit maybe let down?
My thinking was, why would they did the same thing with Dolph last year where he was gone and then he showed up at the Rumble.
Yeah.
I don't know why they did it 2 years in a row, and 2 years in a row, even though Ziggler was in the final three, he didn't feel like he had a chance to win the match. And so in that regard, yeah, I feel like they could have done better with that spot. Because if they're not going to give me a credible contender, give me Velveteen Dream, give me Ricochet, give me someone that's going to really pop me. Because I didn't really go crazy for it. I don't think the crowd was like, I mean, they popped, but it wasn't like huge like it could have been for Velveteen. And I think that, I think they could have done better with 28.
Yeah, me too. Okay, let's go into the finish now, because I don't know how you feel about this, but R-Truth was obviously meant to be number 30, and in comes Nia Jax. She beats up R-Truth, takes his spot, whatever it may be. She eliminated Mustafa Ali, and just, showed her normal Nia spots, and she ended up taking an RKO and a 619, and the crowd were going nuts. WWE have obviously said, whatever it was a month ago, that they're trying to change up the way they do things, and I think, in a sense, they're trying to bring in some edgier content and stuff like that. I know a lot of people get offended in 2019 about things. I am not one of those people. It's wrestling. It's a show. I was fine with all of this. Are you on the same page, at least for me, about Nia taking these moves from men?
Oh, I wasn't a fan. I mean, pro wrestling exists in like a vacuum when I don't even think about gender and stuff like that when I'm watching this. To me, Nia Jax is a competitor. Same as Randy Orton, same as Rey Mysterio, same as Dolph Ziggler, same as everybody. I like that I overall, at first, because I don't like Nia Jax, I was upset. But I like what they did because, A, they again, the thing with number 30, I hate to know who it is, so seeing someone take that spot that's a surprise sits well with me. Tough break for R-Truth, but maybe next year. The other thing I enjoyed was that, she looked like she belonged there. Like she eliminated Mustafa Ali. She took moves, but she also dished out punishment. She looked like she belonged, and I actually thought that was a pretty cool way to end the match.
Me
to
too. I
at
agree.
least end the entrance.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. It didn't. I'm the same as you. I see as Nia Jax is a competitor, and also Nia Jax is getting to work with Rey Mysterio. She's getting to work with Randy Orton. They're two future Hall of Famers, two legends of this industry. The fact that Rey Mysterio is bumping from her moves. That's a pretty big nod in terms of, okay, these guys are obviously willing and the company has faith in Nia Jax. I'm the same as you. I'm not a big Nia Jax fan. That's a topic for another podcast, but regardless of anything, she is in the ring working with elite talent, regardless of gender. And like you said, she looked like she belonged. It was a fun moment in the whole Rumble match. I know I was certainly excited to see it. And the crowd were too. The crowd were very, very happy with the whole kind of the way it kind of went down. So in that terms, I was just super excited about the whole moment. And I think it's a moment we'll probably never... It will always be in that WWE highlight reel kind of aspect.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it will. It's all by the numbers, that whole thing. Nia Jax is a place there. And I really think that she earned the respect. You may not have turned a lot of fans' opinion on her, but I think she may have earned the respect of a lot of people for going out there and doing that. That wasn't an easy thing for her to do, and she must have known that there's going to be backlash to it. Yeah. But she went out and did it anyway, and she got to work with legends and got to bump alongside legends. And at the end of the day, that's like the coolest thing in the world, to see future talent like Nia Jax, like someone who's established but not
at that level.
Yeah, not at the level of an Orton or a Mysterio. To see her work with them and to see them give her the rub, like that I feel that rub. Like I like Nia Jax a bit more now.
Me too, and not only that, I know she was only in there for a few minutes, but she held her own. It didn't look unnatural for her. It didn't look like they were guiding her through this. She's a wrestler, they're wrestlers, and it was just another day in the office for Nia Jax and Rey Mysterio and Randy Orton and Mustafa Ali, whoever else she got to work with in that little brief period of time. And like you said, that's the rub to Nia Jax. It at least makes me see that she can hang with top talent.
Yeah, I agree. I agree 100%. I think that I'm now sort of excited to see where she goes from this.
Yeah, and I hope they utilize her in a way that, it uses that rub efficiently, if anything else. Going into the finish of this match, there was a lot of outside elements. We had Bobby Lashley attack Seth a little bit earlier, putting him through a table, to kind of keep him out of our minds in some regard. To let Braun and Dolph and Drew and all them do their kind of spots in Andrade. We come down to Dolph, Seth, and Braun. Was there really any other way to go in this match but Seth Rollins winning at this point?
No. I don't think people would have wanted to see Braun win. Even though it may have been feasible, I think the fans would have hated that. And like you said earlier in the show, I don't want to see Braun and Brock again. That ship has sailed. And I wouldn't want to see Braun work with a guy like Daniel Bryan because I'm afraid he might injure him. And Ziggler had no shot. It was Rollins. It was Rollins the whole way for me. I thought Rollins was going to win from the get-go, and I hate when that happens. I hate knowing who's going to win and being right about it because I genuinely like being surprised. And so I was rooting for guys like an Andrade or an Andrade, a Pete Dunne, not a Baron Corbin, but like that kind of guy.
Yeah, I get you.
Let's not throw Baron Corbin into it. God damn it!
I didn't even hear it. Let's just move along from that one.
All right, yeah, that was just the flip. But I would have liked to see like a Samoa Joe or a Mustafa Ali pick up the win and like really set themselves up for a push. But I'm okay with Rollins winning because I want to see Rollins. I mean, there's two intriguing title matches that can come out of this. We're either getting Rollins-Lesnar or Rollins-Bryan, conceivably, assuming Bryan holds on to the title. I think both those matches could be really good.
Oh, me too. I'm the same as you. Like when it comes down to that 3, there was really no other way to go about this Seth winning, especially in the sense of Becky had won the Women's Royal Rumble. It was an incredible feel-good moment for 90% of the audience. It was the kind of moment that you end a show with. So you had to have it replicated for this Rumble, being the main event. And Dolph wouldn't do that for me, at least. Braun definitely wouldn't do that for me. The only way to go was Seth. And yeah, like you said, it was predictable. I actually did hope for someone like Andrade or someone like that to win. But it's fine. Like you said, we're getting a potential of either of those matches would be incredible. I do lead myself a little bit more towards Rollins and Lesnar, but there is a lot of time between now and WrestleMania, so it easily could go either way. And you don't know who the champions are going to be walking into WrestleMania. I mean, I'm pretty sure Brock's going to be holding onto that Universal title, but you don't know who's going to be holding the WWE Championship. So, and Rollins has got that in his back pocket. So, and it is a knock on. It's not definitely a knock on Rollins because I like Rollins. It was just more so the predictability factor, and like we're talking about before, there is a certain element of fun in the shock and the surprise.
Yeah, I just didn't really feel it with the Rollins win, but again, I think it could have been worse. I think Rollins was a good pick to win in story. I think it just made sense. And sometimes that's the road you got to take. You have to make sense rather than go for the shock because shock could backfire.
Yeah.
But now you've got stories in place, and you got 2 months of build, and we'll see who Rollins picks. I think he's going to pick Lesnar, and we'll get a good match out of it.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. Sometimes predictability isn't a bad thing. It's just where we got to go, and it makes the most sense. As we're kind of wrapping things up here, overall, did you think the show lived up to the kind of the hype it had on paper? Do you think this show was good?
Oh, yeah, I think it was a good show. There really was. I wasn't too disappointed. I wasn't left disappointed by really anything except maybe the WWE title match, surely because you expect Bryan and Styles to deliver an absolute classic every time out there, which is unfair to them because that's almost impossible. But for the most part, I enjoyed everything. My expectations were exceeded in some places. Some places they weren't quite met, but overall, I think it evened itself out to be a pretty good show.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. Especially on the Bryan and AJ stuff, that was just a placement thing as well. It was a really good show. I think everyone can kind of agree that no matter what, the Rumble is always fun. Whether the other matches on the card are bad or not, the Rumbles make up for that in so many more, in more ways than one. Not that any of these matches on the card were bad. It's just it is a guaranteed good night of wrestling.
Yeah,
it is fun. It does get us started on the road to WrestleMania. I know that sounds cliche, but it really does feel like Mania time now. For you, as we kind of wind down, what's kind of the most exciting thing about Mania season? What makes you really feel like, okay, this is Mania, this is happening, and I'm just really excited with what's going on? What kind of makes you think about that?
Well, you say it yourself, we are officially on the road to WrestleMania. Just the feel, I think it feels different from here on out. Every show from now until WrestleMania at the end of March, early April, whenever it is, feels significantly more important than shows any other time of the year. And you have the feeling that everything going on is working towards the bigger picture. Whereas that's in the off season, in the the post Mania months, you get that feeling where some things just are spur of the moment. I don't get that during the road to Mania. I feel like everything has its place. Everything is done for a reason, and I really appreciate that. And I appreciate that we're going to get 2 months of really, really focused, dialed-in television because they know they have to be good. They can't phone it in on the road to WrestleMania, or else people are going to turn away. Yeah. They know that the TV has to be good, and so the writers are really going to knuckle down and churn out 2 months of really great content for us. And I'm excited to sit down night after night and absorb it all.
Yeah, me too. I 100% agree with that. It's just a fun time for wrestling, all in all. So let people know where they can find you on social media, and yeah, you have your time to say whatever you want as we kind of end up this episode.
Sure, I will plug myself. I often enjoy doing that. You can find me on Twitter at Kevin C Wrestling. You could find my website, thelastbloggerstanding.wordpress.com. The link is in my Twitter if you happen to follow me after this. I really hope you do. I have good wrestling tweets and I have bad wrestling tweets, most like everybody. You could also find my work at divadirt.com and thechairshot.com, two phenomenal wrestling websites that even if you're not reading me personally, you should be reading anyway because they're churning out really great content. Divadirt in particular, with its focus on women's wrestling, one of the most important outlets I think in wrestling. And they're definitely gonna have a lot to say about tonight because I think the Rumble was carried by the women with the two title matches in the Rumble. So you can find me there. You can find me on Twitter. I'm not on Facebook or Instagram or anything else with the wrestling. That's why my personal accounts are on there, but I really stick to Twitter. And I just come follow me. I hope you enjoyed this show. I hope you enjoy my work, and I'm really looking forward to doing this again because this was a blast.
Yeah, we've obviously clicked pretty well, and I think it's safe to say that as you just kind of we're just naturally having a conversation. I think that's what I kind of try my best to do with this show, especially as I'm bringing on guests, is I'm just trying to have a conversation about wrestling. It's just basically two friends talking about wrestling. And you've been great guest. Everyone, please go and follow this guy on Twitter because he does have good wrestling tweets. He does. And I love having a chat about wrestling with him. So please do, and make sure you please rate this podcast 5 stars on iTunes, and yeah, just everything. I just hope everyone enjoyed the Rumble as much as we did. And yeah, that will be all for this episode of Wrestling Reverb. I will catch you guys next time. Peace.